general is very detrimental to many marriages. Um, and throughout the course of this, we're going to really discuss why exactly many people do masturbate, why exactly the people who are dealing with masturbation, why they struggle with it, why it is actually something that is an addiction. Because many people don't really look at it as an addiction; they look at it more as a hobby. Very similar to weed, like people that smoke marijuana, they'll say, "Well, I can stop anytime I want to. I just don't feel like it today." And that's the calling card of someone who's addicted to any type of substance or anything in general. It's that I always have tomorrow to stop. And masturbation and pornography is no different, because it'll warp your brain just as badly, if not worse, than these things. Because we'll start to deal with where masturbation will actually take you, why many people dealt with masturbation. But I think the first thing that really needs to be discussed, at least because I'm here, is my testimony, why I'm speaking about masturbation. And I would say that in this generation, I was born in the year 2000. Like many people born within the age range of myself, we were very much exposed to sexual images, sexual content, implied perversity at a very young age. And in my case, I started really being introduced to that when I was a child. I had to have been around 10 years old. Back in the days, this was before Netflix and all that. Back in the Blockbuster days, they had on demand on TV.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they had on demand. And it's crazy because kids nowadays don't know what on demand is, but I digress. They had on demand, and it started off, I would watch different shows that I would like they had Avatar: The Last Airbender. They had different shows, like cartoony shows. But I had a bad habit of staying up late at night, and I would get into more of the adult content. So I would be watching South Park, Family Guy, American Dad.
It's like a lot of us.
And it's just like it creeps up into you. Like you don't really notice it at first. You just think, oh, it's just a cartoon. You're watching cooler cartoons than the rest of your peers. You come to find out they was watching the same things too. But it starts off there, where you start to just get really numb to the idea of adult content at a young age. And it's never just, I just feel like I'm gonna start watching porn one day. Yeah. Well, maybe it happens to 1 in like 1,000, but I'd say that
the seed that's being planted and it grows.
Yeah, it's the seed, and that's how it was for me. It started off with me just watching stuff that I wasn't supposed to be watching, and that opened the door spiritually to wanting to know more about not necessarily sex, but adult content.
Yeah.
So I started watching more R-rated movies, just watching all types of stuff I had no business watching at a 10-year-old. And I came across this one movie. I can't remember what it was called. It was a movie that came out, I think, in like the 80s.
What the heck?
I think it was called, was it Killing Me Softly? I think it was Killing Me Softly. And I remember at the beginning of in a lot of trailers that they would have on demand, they would have like a list of the new movies and shows they would have, and one of them was Kill Me Softly, and it said, beware, this movie contains fighting, violence, cursing, explicit language, provocative language, and nudity. And like my young brain, it just lit up different things in my mind, like nudity. Like I could see a naked woman, because it was around that time, I think I had to been around in like 7th grade, 7th grade, when these things really started to grasp my attention, to grab hold of my attention. And I remember it was the first time that I saw a movie where I saw a woman topless in a movie. And as a 10-year-old, that blew my mind. It's like, that's actually on TV. Like I remember, I'll never forget that feeling. Like it really shocked my heart.
Oh my god.
And that really opened the door for me to start, really desiring or wondering about these different things. Like I know for a fact that after this, I didn't have no smartphone back then. Not many kids had a smartphone. You had one, it was cool. That was when the Droid came out. Remember the Droid? Remember that? Yeah, I always wanted one of that, but my parents wouldn't let me do that. They knew I wasn't gonna be take care of it. So I didn't have access to the internet through that. I had access to the internet through my PlayStation and as well as my I had a DSi at the time, Nintendo,
Yeah.
and you know they made it available for you to go and watch things on the internet. This was before I think they had like private browsers and different things to keep kids out of it, because I think they're just very careless back then, circa 2010. So I started to just scroll through the internet, and I started to see, like, because of the curiosity that I was starting to get in my mind, I would look up things like women's boobs or naked women, and then in my vocabulary, porn was in my vocabulary at that time. But the more you go in, you start to see a trend, like these things are called porn. So then you type in porn and you see all of this type of stuff just pop up. And this was back before there was a lot of filters. They had everything everywhere. People were still just trying to get used to the idea of porn being on the internet. Whereas people would either buy it on DVDs, cassettes, magazines, posters, and it was something that I guess the world didn't really know what to do with. Some people would say that was deliberate. I don't know about all that. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I would say that at that time, everything was everywhere. You could find any type of pornography that you wanted. You could find, I'm talking crazy stuff, man. And this, mind you, I was like a 10-year-old kid, so I didn't know about like how serious a lot of stuff. And they had child pornography, lesbian, men with men, women with women. They even had like really like a very very graphic pornography. I'm not gonna go into detail because we're on. But they had.
It's fine if you want to.
Well, I'll keep, they had very very serious things where there was gore involved, where there was like a rape fantasy involved. Sometimes, especially back then, a lot of rape porn on there was very real, and people didn't know how to separate it. So yeah, there was rape porn. I remember about 5 years ago, maybe a little less than that, I heard this story about this woman. She was raped, and she was raped on camera, and
What
her rape video had got millions of views on the internet.
Wow.
And basically there was no way of expunging all of it at that time. So she was being raped brutally, and there was nothing that she could do to get her off of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll get into it today. Maybe we'll have a part 2. I don't know. But there's so many different things. Like when you start to see the world of pornography, especially as an adult, you start to recognize that it's not as innocent as just getting your fix and leaving. You start to see, especially when you go into comment sections of these videos, the deeper you go into it, the more demented that people will view another human being. So, I started watching pornography more and more, to the point where I got into high school and I didn't even realize I was addicted. I mean, I was so very addicted that I was skipping classes to go watch porn. I was skipping school to go watch porn. I was doing everything I could to go watch it. And of course, whenever you feed an addiction, you're gonna want to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, people didn't take weed very seriously as a gateway drug. We all had school at high school, and people came by and said weed was a gateway drug. But when you're a kid, you're like, what's that?
Yeah.
But when you're an adult, you see that these same people who were big on these quote-unquote gateway drugs, they start becoming completely dependent upon weed. They start lacing the weed up with some stuff, or they start to move on to bigger drugs: crack, cocaine, LSD, acid. One of my closest friends, you know her, I'm not gonna name drop her. She was introduced to weed, but she started going through a lot of different drugs, just trying to feel something. And it's that same effect, trying to feel something, that you get from pornography.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they start off very light, and then it goes more and more and more and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper to now there's like, and this is how I was, you gotta have some sex now because you done heard so much about it. You gotta taste it, see that it's good, like we say with the Lord. Like, you gotta come and taste and see that it's good and see what it's really about. You no longer want to hear about it.
Yeah.
You no longer want to see it. You want to experience
Get to
it.
the next step.
You know? And the thing is, like,
Okay, wait. So I wanted to ask you, because I believe Apostle Chris had said this one time, like years ago, about like how when people watch porn, they begin to like want to reenact what they saw with the person that they had sex. Like,
Yeah.
so can you say if, like you experienced that or anything like that?
absolutely. Like when you start watching